For the past couple of days, things have been quiet in the Emmanuel Haro case. And then last night, I got word that law enforcement put out a new statement about the case. Now, when I got this news, I got excited. Because you have to remember that the last time we heard from law enforcement was during the press conference. And during the press conference, law enforcement stated that they have a strong indication as to where Emmanuel is or where his remains are. So I thought that the next time we hear from law enforcement, it's going to be when they find Emmanuel, since they already have a good idea as to where he's at. I was thinking that this statement last night was going to be a game changer, a big deal. I thought it was going to be some valuable information. Or maybe they found Emmanuel. But boy, oh boy, was I wrong. So it turns out the statement is coming directly from the district attorney. And instead of releasing any information that would put people's minds at ease, instead of updating us on the process of finding Emmanuel, the district attorney put out a statement basically criticizing people who are still talking about this case, who are covering this case. They basically want people to shut their mouths and not talk about it anymore. But that's not going to happen, considering the fact that Jake has already hurt kids in the past and he was let off. We're not going to allow that to happen again. So we're going to stay focused on this case. We're going to stay talking about this case. And I think they're getting upset because in the process of people talking about this case, people are bringing up a lot of the shady stuff that was going on in this area for a while, including them letting Jake off 0 time served. Jake basically turned his daughter into a vegetable who can't think for herself, can't eat for herself, can't use the bathroom for herself, bedridden, okay? And they let Jake out free. And then Jake struck again. So no, we're not going to go away. We're not going to be quiet. I understand that there's 2 kinds of people. There's people who are overly critical of law enforcement, and there's people who get sensitive anytime you criticize law enforcement. I'm in the middle. I value what they do. I understand it's a hard job. I respect them. But at the same time, no one, including law enforcement, especially law enforcement, is above criticism. And they deserve to be criticized for certain things, including letting Jake free after hurting his other kid. But I want to go ahead and dive into this statement. And as I read this statement, I want you guys to think about how they could have better used their time here. Instead of coming out and bashing people covering the case, maybe they should be out there trying to find Emmanuel. Because they say they have a strong indication as to where he's at. I haven't seen a single search party. They are not out there searching for Emmanuel as we speak. I just want you guys to keep that in mind. There are no active searches going on for Emmanuel as we speak. Yet, we're getting statements like this one from the district attorney. A statement to the media and our community members regarding the Jake and Rebecca Haro case. We understand how deeply the community and the media care about baby Emmanuel and are eager for information about this case. We share your desire for justice and your desire for transparency. However, there has been a significant amount of misinformation circulating in the media and on social media, which can be confusing and frustrating for everyone. Please know that we are committed to providing accurate information. Also, please understand that we are bound by legal and ethical responsibilities that prevent us from sharing detailed case info publicly. These responsibilities are in place to avoid making statements that could influence the case, prejudice the fairness of the court proceedings, or impede the goal we all share, justice for baby Emmanuel. We kindly ask for your patience and understanding and to trust that the accurate facts will be shared through appropriate official updates in due time. Spreading false info or rushing to conclusions can unintentionally hinder the investigation and impact the court proceedings, which are essential to receiving justice. Thank you for understanding and cooperating. What these people need to understand is that no one trusts y'all anymore. You can say, hey, everyone, just chill out. Don't talk about this case. Trust us. We got this handled. How did that work out last time? And look, I know that in recent months, since Trump came in office, a lot of these sheriffs and these law enforcement officials are all trying to act badass and hardcore now, like they're tough on crime. They weren't tough on crime a couple of months ago. So I don't care about this new act, because that's what it is. It's a new act that a lot of these law enforcement officials are putting on. Like, yeah, we're tough on crime. We're going to be tough. No, you're not. Y'all aren't tough on crime at all. And I don't want to hear this nonsense. Oh, well, it's all on the judge. It's all on this. No, it's on law enforcement as well. Because law enforcement has been allowing people to run around all willy-nilly going crazy in California for a while now. We're not going to pretend like that's not happening. And I don't just put it all on the judge. It's on every single form of law enforcement. And sure, there's some sheriffs or some officers that wish things weren't this way. But they are that way. And little was done to change things until recently. So this new tough guy act that everyone is putting on is not fooling me, because these people are not tough on crime. These people were not tough on Jake when he destroyed the life of his last kid. And you want to know what's funny? During the press conference, multiple times, and listen, I understand mistakes are made. I made this mistake probably once before too. But during the press conference, multiple times they stated that, oh, if Jake was in jail for what he did to his last kid, he would have never hurt Emmanuel. The reality is, if Jake was in prison for what he did to his last kid, Emmanuel would have never been conceived. Yet multiple times, multiple law enforcement officials, including the sheriff and the DA, they stated multiple times that if Jake was in prison for what he did to his last kid, Emmanuel would still be here. Now, like I said, mistakes can be made. But these are people who are in charge of this case. And it looks like they don't fully understand the timeline in this case. It looks like they don't fully understand how old Emmanuel is. If Jake was thrown in prison for hurting his daughter, Jake wouldn't have been out of prison to conceive Emmanuel. Therefore, Emmanuel would have never been born. And I understand, like I said, this is an easy mistake to make. You want to just say, hey, if Jake was locked up, then Emmanuel would be okay right now. I get it. But these are the people who are in charge of this case, in charge of this investigation. They're talking down to us like we got our details wrong. They're talking down to us like we got all of our info wrong, when during the press conference, they don't even got their info right. They should be aware of the timeline. They should know the timeline and understand the timeline better than us, but they don't. Oh, Emmanuel would be okay if Jake was thrown in prison. No, Emmanuel wouldn't have been born. Easy mistake, but we can't, law enforcement officials aren't supposed to be making these mistakes. Now, I feel like much of this criticism that we're seeing from law enforcement right now, I feel like it's mainly aimed at Brian Enton and News Nation for spreading the info about Jake confessing and the fake inmate and rolling over on the baby, throwing the baby in a dumpster. I think that's what they're talking about, because people were talking about this case, spreading info about this case, and the DA and law enforcement weren't saying anything. But ever since Brian Enton put that info out, law enforcement has kind of confronted the media and independent media multiple times. So I really think most of their comments are directed towards there. I think that's what kind of ticked them off. Did it tick them off because it's real information and maybe they're messing up the investigation by putting the info out there? Maybe. Or it's ticking them off because it's simply not true. I don't believe it's true as of right now, but I could be wrong. But nevertheless, this is where we're at. I'm thinking that we're going to get some critical information about them looking for Emmanuel, but instead they're worried about social media instead of worrying about doing their job. And yet, it's very discouraging for everyone to see you guys stand at the microphone saying that you have a strong idea as to where Emmanuel is, and here we are days later, and we haven't seen y'all search anywhere. We aren't seeing y'all look anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to search in the future, but hell, obviously there's no rush for them. There's no rush to find Emmanuel. There's no urgency. We'll just leave his remains out there for however long. We'll go check on it next week or the week after when we feel like it. First, we got to make sure y'all aren't talking about the case online. How dare you talk about this case? We'll find Emmanuel when we feel like it. So yeah, I am frustrated. And I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to bite my tongue. And if people are angry that I'm frustrated with law enforcement, take a look at their history. You should be angry at them because I have no power here. They do. And they release people who hurt kids all the time. All the freaking time. All the time. You hurt a kid, it's like a get out of jail free card. You can really do anything out there. You can go burn the neighbor's house down if you want to. You can go break into Emmanuel's home and do tours on TikTok. No arrests are being made because law enforcement isn't doing their job. They can pretend to act all Billy Badass. They aren't doing shit. Period. So yeah, I am ticked off by this statement. And yeah, I'm going to keep talking about Emmanuel. And everyone should as well. Because if we don't talk about it, what happens is these stories get swept under the rug, and then they let these violent, evil people right back out on the streets again. Time and time again. And like I said, the Billy Badass act that they're putting on right now, it's not working. Because I know their history. I know the history of the area. I've covered stories of people getting off of heinous crimes in the area before. It's really frustrating. And I'm hoping that they are doing what they can to find Emmanuel. I'm not here to tell you they're not doing anything, but to sit on the podium, to sit on the microphone and say, we have a strong idea as to where Emmanuel is at. What, do we got to wait 2 weeks for you to follow up on your leads? What is going on here? This is a small child. I don't even want to get into the details. The remains could be exposed to Lord knows what, if there's even anything left. But before I go off anymore, because I feel it coming, you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.